Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff J. Brown, China Rising Radio, Sinoland in Shenzhen, just south of the Tropic of Cancer. And it's the Chinese New Year Eve. Tomorrow's the first day of the Year of the Pig, and it's really bizarre in our neighborhood in Shenzhen, which is usually pretty hustling and bustling and noisy. It's like a ghost town. It's like a French rural village on Sunday morning. It's just completely silent. It's pretty strange. All right, today is a bit of a follow up to the podcast article I just did on George Soros. And this one is entitled "Canadian Recently Arrested by Baba Beijing Works for the Soros-CIA Front Group ICG." And his picture is presented along with the logo for ICG. Left behind Michael Kovrig, Kovrig. Behind Kovrig's cute pixie smile is the mask of a cold, calculating spy. Right, ICG is a mercenary Soros-CIA front that has caused the death and suffering of millions of innocents across the globe. Let's begin. Western media went ballistic when a Canadian was recently arrested in China. Mr. Michael Kovrig was taken into custody, has only been allowed limited access to the Canadian embassy, and has not been permitted to see a lawyer, so naturally non-Chinese pundits were aghast at Mr. Kovrig's, quote, inhumane, end of quote, treatment. He was taken in China on December 10th, right on the heel of Huawei's CFO Ms. Meng Wanzhou, MENG, being arrested on December 1st by the Canadian government while in transit at Vancouver's airport to be extradited to the U.S., which I just reported on. This for phony charges of circumventing America's unitary sanctions against Iran that even the Canadians do not recognize, but never mind. Canada is an overweening, obsequious Yankee finger puppet, like the EU, so we cannot expect much else. Kovrig's arrest looks like a simple case of quid pro quo for Meng, but the fact of the matter is he is a spy. I can say this with complete confidence because he is an employee of ICG, the International Crisis Group. ICG is one of George Soros's many front organizations under his Open Society foundations, and every one of them is a color revolution creation machine, hell-bent on destroying the way of life of any country that is not a resource whore for Western capitalism. Behind all their slick, lefty, liberal propaganda, this is what they do. ICG is not a, quote, think tank that analyzes conflicts and geopolitical flashpoints. It is a CIA front that causes conflicts and geopolitical flashpoints. It is not a, quote, independent organization working to prevent wars and shape policies that will build a more peaceful world, end of quote. That is pure propaganda deflection. ICG exists to foment wars and subvert anti-imperial socialist communist countries' ways of life to install puppet sluts in service to NATO and global capitalism. In the last few years, George Soros has reportedly given ICG at least $5 million. USAID, a well-known public CIA front, has donated, as well as the oil trillionaire Rockefeller, Stanley, and Carnegie families. Another well-known CIA front, the Ford Foundation, has ponied up. Petroleum giants Chevron, Shell, ExxonMobil, Conoco-Phillips, Eni, that's the Italian oil concern, and British Petroleum don't donate to ICG out of the goodness of their sweet little Christian hearts, nor do the mining conglomerates Anglo-American and BHP Billiton. Other, quote, altruistic do-gooders, end of quote, like the money-laundering Royal Bank of Scotland have also paid to play. Then throw in some of post-war's greatest color revolution zealots and their organizations. This includes socialism, communism, Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, hating Zbigniew Brzezinski of White House U.S. Department of State fame, Wesley Clark, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, and Stanley Fischer, Vice Chairman of Citigroup and former First Deputy Managing Director of International Monetary Fund, the IMF. And you can clearly see that the vile, evil fruit of global rape and plunder capitalism falls at the foot of the poisonous ICG vine. The fact that Michael Kovrig is a former Canadian diplomat does not mitigate why Baba Beijing has arrested him for, quote, engaging in activities endangering national security, end of quote, which is diplomatic politesse for espionage. When I worked in Algeria in 1985 to 1990, I had an official U.S. passport and worked under the aegis of the embassy there. Everyone there knew who the officially registered CIA and DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, diplomats were, the ones recognized by the Algerian government. This is standard operating procedures across the diplomatic world. It is also accepted that embassies and spydom have non-official covers, abbreviated NOCs, who are other members of the embassy, business people, church officials, and often from among thousands of non-government organization, NGO representatives who are tasked by the West's alphabet soup of spy agencies to provide in-field information, reconnaissance, and help recruit local and international agents, quote, for the cause, end of quote. They are paid cash, given special favors like travel junkets, access to VIPs and personages, gigs in the mainstream media, etc., while others do it out of their misguided sense of patriotism. Some get caught, arrested, imprisoned, or evicted from the country. NGOs get closed, and countries like China pass strict laws to control them, something I've explained in detail. All countries engage in this kind of declared and illicit espionage. It's been going on for thousands of years. Funnily, rumors were rife at the embassy in Algiers that I was an NOC, since I was a really good friend of the ambassador, was fluent in Arabic, and traveled all over the region for my work. It's true, I did fit the NOC profile, but I never offered my services, nor was I ever approached by, quote, the gang, end of quote. They probably knew me well enough not to waste their time getting declined. I've met many NOCs in my travels around Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. They don't brag about it, but you can pick them out. I remember an American physician in Beijing who treated our daughter. He spent years in the celebrated NGO Doctors Without Borders. All the countries he told me he went to were those overthrown by the West or under imperial assault. He fit the MO perfectly. I had to smile because he even had a caricature of the hard-drinking, hard-living, gruff, take-no-prisoners badass. Well-intentioned NGOs like this one, Red Cross, International Volunteer Services, the IVS, etc., pay lip service that they, quote, vet, end of quote, employees, workers for being NOCs. But it's not like these folks are running around with a, "Look, I'm a spy," badge on their jackets. Unless they've been caught, outed, and it becomes known in NGO circles, they continue to fill the ranks of, quote, noble, end of quote, NGOs around the planet. Why? They make wonderful spooks because they are out in, quote, enemy territory, end of quote, on the ground, and can funnel all kinds of valuable information to organizations like the CIA, DIA, NSA in the US, MI6, MI5 in the UK, DGSE in France, and the BND in Germany, to improve their color revolution and sabotage operations. They must be in psychiatry's psychopathic spectrum because millions of innocents die every year as a result of their undercover deeds. All in a day's work, whoring for imperial capitalism. Thus, we see the exaggerated shock in the foghorn of mainstream Western propaganda that, quote, Kovrig's arrest is unjustified. We call for him to be released immediately, and at a minimum for him to be allowed regular consular access, contact with his family, and to see his legal counsel. He must be tired and stressed, end of quote. This is all derisively laughable when ICG is a well-known imperial sabotage machine, and Kovrig's MO fits the NOC spy profile to a colonial T. Please don't try to convince me that Baba Beijing does not know all this. Replete with names, addresses, and phone numbers, China's spy agency, the Ministry of State Security, is hands down one of the best and most credible in the world. If you get arrested by them, there is a 95% chance that they have the goods on you. 10 to 1, Kovrig is going to spend many well-deserved years in a Chinese prison for espionage and for all the blood of the millions of innocents who have suffered and died at the mercenary hands of ICG. This is Jeff J. Brown, China Rising Radio Sinoland, signing out from Shenzhen. Have a wonderful, happy New Year of the pig. Bye-bye.